What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Finally, we got the AFR gauge installed on the C32. I also have it installed on the E55 and Monica's E55, and we'll go ahead and dive into how I actually got it installed. Huge shout out to Braden. I mentioned Braden on my last video. You guys definitely go check him out on Instagram. Give him a follow. Like, you guys just go follow him because he's been super helpful. I've been learning a lot from him. He did show me how to actually install an AFR gauge on the 32, and I'll show you guys actually how to install that. But I want to show you guys the AFR gauge real quick. And also, we'll be taking the 32 out and the E55. We'll be seeing how the tune is actually reading versus the tune on the stock car. And keep in mind, this is the base tune, so obviously the readings are going to be completely different. But I want to show you guys here real quick how the AFR looks like on the car. So I went ahead and actually installed it right there. A little bit about this AFR gauge. It's actually budget friendly. This gauge right here comes with the whole kit, comes with the mounting point and all the wiring accessories you would need and the housing for the AFR gauge. And it only cost me 80 bucks. And this you can find off of Amazon. I'll throw the link in the description down below so you guys can check it out. When I saw the reviews on this AFR gauge, I was actually really surprised because, you know, the usual AFR gauges are around 200 bucks and this was only for 80 bucks. I did some searching on it and I actually found that this AFR gauge is actually really good. I just wanted to point that out for you guys to know. Let's go ahead and take the car out for a drive. We can see how things are running, and then I'll show you guys how I actually got it installed. So you guys are probably wondering why you need an AFR gauge. I think it's really important, especially for boosted cars, because you would never know what is really going on with your tune. You could have a good tune, you could have a bad tune, you would never know. You could be running a tune for a year or two and your car has been performing good, but really you can't really tell the data of how the car is functioning in terms of air fuel ratios. The whole reason for an AFR gauge is to just get how rich or lean the car is running. So on wide open throttle, you want to see a specific number. On cruising, just idling, you want to see a specific number. There are many scenarios. Someone could have an issue with their pump going bad. Maybe it's twisted in its housing, isn't getting enough fuel delivery to the engine. That could cause the car to go lean. And without that gauge, doing a wide open throttle, you wouldn't know if your car is going lean and you could blow your engine. With that gauge, if you see your car is going lean, you can just let off and guess what? You saved your engine. All you have to do is data log that, get it to your tuner, and they would adjust, or they will let you know, hey, there's something wrong with the fuel delivery and that's why you're going lean. That's very, very important. There are many scenarios on, you know, how you can really get your cars dialed in with an AFR gauge and also knowing the health of your car. That's why I say it's very important on all boosted cars, especially if they're highly modified like this car. That's why I got an AFR gauge, just to be safe. Braden, I mentioned him in the last video. I just want to say, you guys, if you haven't followed him yet, definitely go ahead and follow him. He's got amazing knowledge on these boosted cars, especially on the C32. So if you guys have a ton of questions that you are wanting to know more about the C32, definitely go hit him up, but I would say give him a follow. I think I've been talking a little too much explaining the AFR gauge, but I think it's very important so you guys know about it. But let's go ahead and start the car up and get going. I've started the car up, driven it, and I've seen what the gauge is reading. I haven't really gotten on it yet because I just wanted to save that for this video. So we'll go ahead and start it up and I'll just let you know for the time being, it's going to be very rich on the startup because, you know, obviously the base tune, it needs retuned. So you guys don't worry about that. This will be dialed in. You know, I think it's funny how, you know, when I was using the dash command, I was thinking the car was running really lean. Well, that was the opposite. So this is how it turns on once you put it in the second position, and that's how it's, you know, warming itself up. So we'll wait a few seconds here, and once it starts flashing, then we're good to go to start the car. All right, it's flashing now. I'll give you guys a cold start here. There we go. So at startup, yeah, it's reading pretty rich. The lower the number, the more rich, if you guys are not familiar with how to read these gauges. Right now, it should be reading about 14.5, maybe 15. Again, this is the base tune. Being rich is better than being lean. I'm not gonna lie, guys, this gauge is actually pretty sweet. Oh, hopefully the camera is picking it up. It's LED, so hopefully it doesn't flash. It doesn't look like it's flashing, but this is just me, you know, quarter throttle. It's pretty rich. It's running at 12, but I'm waiting for the car to warm up. But usually, you know, around town, you want to see about 14, 15-ish. But right now, you know, it's pretty safe at 12. So it's pretty rich, but it's not too bad. At least it's a safe base tune, you know, to get me to the dyno before anything. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I like this view a lot, especially it being here. It's pretty cool. Like, I'm kind of geeking out on it. All right, let me make a U-turn right here. We'll give it a half throttle, quarter throttle, see what it's reading. This car literally just cut me. You guys saw that. So we're about 14. That's quarter throttle. Yeah, that's about quarter throttle, and this thing is moving really quick. Holy smokes. I'll try and slow down, get to half throttle, see what it's reading. But you guys saw that quarter throttle. We're at 13, 15. That's pretty safe. So let's go ahead and see what it reads here at half throttle. Okay. So yeah, that picked up quite a ton. You guys heard that. You could hear the supercharger. It feels really great. That was around 12-ish for half throttle. I would say, you know, 13, 14 would be nice. But 12 isn't too bad. Again, bass tune. Guys, I'm not gonna lie. This thing is quick. I don't know if it's because I've been used to driving the E55. Obviously, the E55 feels heavier, but this is quick. And we're already like almost 80. That's crazy. Holy smokes. Alright, we gotta get this thing back because this thing is really quick. I don't know. I usually don't drive this car often. I figured I'll show you guys the numbers. We'll get it back in the garage so we're not on it too much. I mean, right now, you know, the numbers are showing it's fine to drive. It's just pretty rich. So a retune would be amazing. Let's see. You guys want to see the numbers on the E55? Why not? Let's take out the E55. Show you guys what it's reading. I'm glad, you know, I'm actually able to drive this and see how the tune is performing, how the car is performing. We'll do one more. Actually, let's do a full throttle right now. I feel confident. Dang. All right, that's it. That was actually pretty solid. Full throttle, reading at about 12, 11, 9. That's pretty solid, I would say, for full throttle. This is so cool, guys. This just tells me when to let off and when I can keep going. Anyways, let's get this back to the house. We'll save this car for the dyno, get it dialed in perfectly. All right, let's hop into the E55. All right, so same setup. All right, so there you go. There you have it. It's a reading about 16 right now. Look at that. You can already see the difference with the C32 versus the E55. So that's about, you know, quarter throttle, and it's at 15-ish. Most of the time when I'm driving, this thing is around 14.5. Obviously, we're gonna do a half throttle and a full throttle and see how the gauge is reading. But you guys kind of get an idea of how to read a gauge now. Honestly, you know what? Let's go full throttle right here. Yeah, that was pretty solid to read. Like, that right there was pretty healthy. And then we're back at it. We're just cruising and we're sitting at 14. Yeah, that's about normal right there. Just 14. like I was saying earlier, it's usually around 14, just cruising around. All right, we'll do a half throttle here. That was a full throttle. Obviously this is stock, so tuned by AMG, so it's reading pretty solid. Let's do a half throttle here. Yeah, so half throttle is about like 13, 14-ish, which is pretty solid. All right, we'll do another half throttle here. So yeah, pretty much half throttle, it's about, you know, 13, 14. And then full throttle, you know, it's at 11. You want to see mostly 11. If it dips it a little bit to the 10s, that's fine. But 11 is pretty solid, 11.9, 11.5. And then just cruising around, you want to be at 14. Like the way it's showing right now, 14. You guys have seen how the gauge works and all that, so let me show you actually how to get it routed and installed on your 32. And the E55, it's pretty much the same thing. So check it out. Before I actually show you how to get things routed, the kit itself comes with an O2 sensor. So the O2 sensor, obviously you want to get that installed into your exhaust. If you're fully stock, connect it after your primary cat. You don't want to connect it before your primary cat, because your computer needs the upstream O2 sensor connected in order for it to send data to the ECU to tell it how much fuel and air it needs adjusted. If the upstream is not connected and your car is stock, it's gonna go from a closed loop to a open loop, which it downgrades the performance. It kind of goes into a pre-saved ECU tune. So you want to avoid that. If your car is fully stocked, just go through the downstream, which is after the primary cat. For modified cars like this, you know, long tube headers or high flow cats, obviously you can go through the upstream hole for the O2 sensor for the gauge, because obviously it's tuned and it's not stock. So once you get that connected, this guy you can take off. You just have to take off this rubber and pull this up, and then you guys see another rubber piece right here. So you're gonna make a little hole through the rubber piece. That's how I got my wiring through. But before you get the wire through, you want to connect the connector, which is underneath of here. Connect the connector, run it through it. It's coming up top here, and I ran it through to the rubber piece that is hooked onto the fuse box, which is right here. So once that goes through, that's it. That's a clean install. Obviously you guys can see I've already wrapped my up, zip tied it, and just kind of shoved it underneath here so it's not in the way. But if you look very closely down through the fuse box, right underneath of these wires, you see where my wire is going? This foam right here, once you insert a wire through it, it's gonna fall through into the cabin. So you want to route your wire through there. I hope you guys can see that. It's pretty much a sponge, and once you go through that sponge, any wire that goes through it, it's gonna be in the cabin. It falls right underneath there, and once you have this plastic trim off, you can kind of route the wire to this section right here, and this pretty much goes to the same spot that the wire falls through. And obviously I have it routed up from here going to the gauge right there. It comes with two wires together, and this wire is your 12 volt and ground wire. All right, so you guys can see right there, that's my ground and power with the gauge. And pretty much when you run the wire through, you want to run all three together, so it's easier to just have one wire running through. And once you get that spliced in, I'll show you guys how to actually splice in the power to the fuse box. It's pretty simple, it's pretty safe, so you don't have to splice into any wires in the car. Yeah, once that's all completed, just tuck it in like that. This trim you can remove and then tuck the wires through there. So my ground, what I ended up doing, routing it through the fuse box, and this rubber piece right here, I made a little hole to run it through it. and I grounded it right here. This is like the cleanest and fastest way you can ground your ground. And for the power, obviously it's coming out from the same hole. You want to buy one of these. These are called fuse tappers. Easiest and safest thing you could use. And I just not spliced in, but I ended up using my power going in through here. And for the connector for the fuse, the bottom section right here, you want to use your original fuse, and the top fuse, which is a 10 amp fuse for the gauge, you want to use a 10 amp fuse, nothing more than that. And pretty much I just tapped into the cigarette port, so whenever I put the car in first position or second position, the gauge turns on and it starts to warm up. And once the key's off, obviously the gauge is not on. So cigarette port fuse would be the 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the fifth one, and just go ahead and plug that in and you're all good to go. You get it plugged in, it should look like that in there. Lots of space clearance. All these wires, you can tuck it back in here and you can close the fuse box and it doesn't interfere with anything at all. It's pretty nice and simple and very clean install, so you don't even know there's anything going on in here. That's how I have it installed, and it's pretty much the same way as the E55. The E55, to get the wires in there, if you guys are interested, next to the fuse box, there's a little rubber grommet. It pretty much looks like this, and all you do is just pull it off, and it's like a huge hole in there. You just put the wires through there and it's gonna fall right into the cabin. So you guys, that's pretty much the install. That's how you would get it routed in the 32, nice and clean. And again, guys, highly recommend the gauge, because that thing right there is gonna save you. When you start modding your boosted 32, you're trying to figure out the tune, how it's running on the car, the AFR gauge will tell you, and you can just hit up your tuner and say, hey, I'm seeing this with wide open throttle, half open throttle, or quarter throttle, and you're getting this reading, and can we perfect it? That's like the best thing you can do. You know, you could have your tune on your car, you can go out, still keep thrashing and thrashing on it, but really, realistically, you don't have that tool to tell you if your tune is getting leaner and leaner, and you know, you could avoid some sort of catastrophic issue with your engine. So having the tool, it's really helpful. I hope you guys actually get that installed on yours. Again, it's pretty cheap. It's 80 bucks. You guys can pick it up off of Amazon and get it installed in about 2 hours. Next video, you guys, I'm hoping we can get the 32 dynoed by next week. Once we get it dynoed, you guys stay tuned for that video. So if you guys want to catch that video next, go ahead and subscribe, smash the like button, and I will see you guys in the next video. All right, take care.